I have returned from my slumber to give you subpar content.
Every single person's first demons of each difficulty are the Nightmare, Bee, 9 Circles, Windy Landscape, and Acu. However, mine were the Lightning Road, Windings, Radioactive, Acropolis, and Acu. When I was still in my thankfully short-lived, like one video short pitched up voice phase, I had the idea of making a video that would basically be theorizing why everybody jumps to Acu from some kind of hard demon, courtesy of a random starter pack post I saw on Reddit. My main reason was going to be that there's hardly any ship or wave screen time, two game modes extreme demons absolutely love, especially at the time, although that point was mainly stolen from Math Genius.
Acu only has one ship part on the whole level that lasts for about 2%, and there's only 5 teeny tiny wave sections which combined make up for about 8%.
But there are other reasons I've now formed on my own, such as the simple modern deco being less of a heavy load on performance on like some levels, as well as the gameplay just generally being sync based. It's the same reason Piano Woman, a level where every single one of its hundreds of inputs are only possible by about 40 milliseconds, apparently isn't even top 50 difficulty. Although I was in my prime for Acu by this point, I had actually been playing this level on and off for quite a while. My last run to 100 before 27 was from 45, which literally happened all the way back in January 2025. And even then, I only had a couple thousand less attempts of progress. But back to its difficulty. I had heard that the wave section at about 69% was a major choke point for a lot of people who played it, but that could just be because it's longer than 2 seconds, since for me, it was only really a minor issue when I was still doing runs in the grind's infancy. What I died to far more often in the level, however, is really every cube section. I think it might just be because there's already so much airborne gameplay in Acu, and while playing, it's not often you get to land on a block, or at least not as often as the usual core vanilla gameplay I find more fun. Here's what I'm basically saying. On the topic of going for a 63 to 100 run every session I grind at Acu, there's this black orb click at 76 that would be diabolical for any one button player to press. To build up the awkwardness, ideally you would already be holding down for a while before the black orb, and that input includes jumping to it. Once you do eventually hit the orb, you have what is essentially no choice but to buffer, as in still holding after you hit the orb to jump from the platform you land on frame 1 and hit the upcoming yellow orb immediately after. However, if you release too soon, the click that would have been spent towards buffering the yellow orb ends up being a jump from the platform. That's about as petty as dying by falling out of the world. I am simply unable to adapt to this 50-50 shot in a level where every non-airborne click by this point has only lasted a few frames. These two timings are so perfectly awkward to the point it's more urgent to time a release than an input, and because of this, I simply just started using more than one hand. I mean, hey, I did do the same thing for the UFO in Acropolis. I think another major reason I'm so significantly and consistently worse at the cube parts in this level is because both the intro and outro are almost entirely spent in the cube game mode, with anything before 27% not having enough practice yet, and at the end of really any level being the most likely to be a very chokeable part. I mean, I even joked about 98% in levels before I even knew why something like 99% wasn't as frequent. Length, but less about the end and more about the beginning, more specifically before the drop at 27, where what feels like 80% of my runs from 0 never got past. There are a handful of choke points in this area. One thing I started doing very early into my runs from 0, particularly at the ball to cube part, is avoiding the orb. For similar reasons to that godforsaken timing at 76, I could not for the life of me consistently time going down and hitting the orb to end up in the upper gap. I had no idea what was happening. It sounds so simple in theory, yet in practice, or rather execution, I guess I'm just too afraid of the saw. That, and I would genuinely rather do one timing instead of 2. And is that 2 times harder? No, it's more like 1.2 times harder, and it certainly doesn't help that this exact difficult kind of timing being in a past daily is responsible for one of my very few Twitch clips. Plus, for my case, it would be a sudden change. Alright, if I go over that platform one more time, it's consistently probably impossible in this frame rate, and I should stop playing this level right now, even if it is black and purple. Okay, so inaccurate indicators. But I don't really see any more striking inconsistencies before 14%. At 14%, however, I also had to learn to click the 2 green orbs afterwards at about the same rate everything else moves, as should everyone else who's seen a showcase of Acu. By this point, I've also now died twice by holding at 18% before falling, but that's only worth mentioning because of the sheer confusion that both deaths gave me for some reason.
What?
But the final and biggest choke point before 27 is the final few seconds before it.
That's even a word. That counts. That counts. That counts. That counts.
This sparkly green orb right here has somehow been my biggest issue for a portion of this grind, and after day 1, I honestly don't think there was anything I could do to make this area more consistent other than just brute force. With all of that established and set in stone for the future, I can actually talk more about my recording, which started with a run from 63 to 90, and also some uninteresting runs from 0.
Okay, that's some... Oh no.
Oh, come on. Did I seriously just fly out of the world? 29%! I got that a million times on every level ever. Every time I played Geometry Dash Gnomes levels, or just Gnomes levels, then I died at 29%. Oh,
13 minutes into my recording, I had a little moment with this useless pop-up,
What if I... Can you shut...
which I now assume is caused by DaVinci Resolve. Regardless, after making sure my screen was actually being displayed, I just decided to do a no-clip run so I could get playing from 0 down, and maybe even take note of the spots I do die. And the actual death count, being 16, or rather 15 if there didn't end up being a bug, is nothing special, but by my standards, nothing horrible either. So, yeah, whether it be me accidentally disabling save mode in the past or the quality of shit mod menu not properly saving the setting, in the past, I had no choice but to download a completely different mod menu that actually had an incomplete level button, since in my panic, I pressed Alt F4 instead of simply either holding the power button on my PC or simply typing crash trigger into the search bar. And because I had a quest completed by mana orbs, the only stat the button couldn't reset, it was safest for me to never play another rated level until I had beaten Acu. As for the skill text box that went away with QOL, I use better edit for it now, albeit with a little option tampering. So, where were we? Oh yeah, choke points past 27. The first new best past 27 I remember was at 40%, which is also the first wall I came to recognize, and I think it might have been there because I get so anxious being so close to the spike that all of my logic comes down to make jump quick. And I end up semi-consistently hitting the first green orb too early. You tell me if this trail makes sense. There is also that one pink dash orb after that kills you in the weirdest, buggiest way if you hit it too late.
There's a run earlier. Wow.
But that's more just another petty death than a prevalent choke. Look, I gotta keep the script fresh somehow. But that was before the no-clip incident. After the no-clip incident, my first new best after the now deleted but still true 40% was 44. Twice. This gap I got an entire 1 extra click method for to get my 27 to 100 run. I'm dying twice to something that was never an issue before. Hopefully not seeing a pattern. There's not really anything else before 63 to mention other than this wave at 57, but it's only really suspect because it's a wave part, and a tight one at that. As you might recall earlier, very early into when I started going for this level, I'd already practiced the 69 wave enough. So although I'd heard it be considered a choke point before, it was obviously no issue, and now that every personal best and existing choke point has been noted, let's move on to day 2, where I actually started streaming progress publicly. The beginning of day 2, more specifically the point I had no viewers, wasn't too different from its predecessor, if you count me having learned how to time the 76 input before then. Naturally, I started with intending to get another 63 to 100 run out of the way, and unlike the day before, I actually succeeded, just not without a death or two past 84. Boy, I sure do hope I can consistently do 84 to 100. In unrelated news, I adopted a lag spike on attempt 1 every time I reopen the level.
I'm hypochondriac. Sweet pressure spikes. And I said it earlier, it's always the first attempt.
But after a friend of mine joined,
I knew it was too good to be true.
so after that death, I took a completely regular break to get most of my shakes out. Now all I can do is hope that I get a more lucky attempt.
$85 times 2.
And I never got a higher percentage that night, which brings us to the choke points. A lot of them still exist to some degree, but really the only point I hadn't been dying any less to is still that one green orb before 27.
Yeah. Oh wow. Oh wow. Every single time. That is by far my worst choke point.
The only other new thing I remember from day 2 is a random surplus of attempts that end in the 50s in general, although I did also die to 71 again, which was still only my second best at the time.
Wow.
So with the 2 deaths at 85 in mind, I plan to practice 84% heavily approaching day 3.
I want to throw something. I just want to give up.
It went horribly horribly. Day 4, no, I'm kidding. 84 to 100 wise, that part went flawlessly. I literally got the run 4 times in a row, but I don't know if it was just because the dogs got me overstimulated, cold hands with no viewers, or if it was my destiny that night to just play Repo instead.
I have this little baby toy car right here, thank you.
Way! I stole your car! Woo!
That's a fish.
Okay, you can have it back.
Okay, maybe not my destiny per se, but on day 4, I plan to go in head first without a single worry. That's right, we're doing another private stream before 9:30. And the lesson that day 4 gave me is that coming back from your worst is not impossible. Did I die right before 27, at 40, and at 71 again? Yes. Did I start randomly dying at 30% in particular, as well as other spots and runs from 63 because my hands weren't warmed up? Yes. But there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and in this case, it just happens to be 2 complementary lights.
I just beat Yasha by Nikki Fu.
I completed an extreme demon, going from beating 4 demons with secret ways, which are now probably medium demon difficulty at most, to beating a classic level under the highest vanilla difficulty. So, what do I plan to beat next? I'm most likely gonna wait a very long while before beating another extreme as my hardest, and rather beat some easier, more casual, or more specifically, required demons in the meantime. I might even beat Dark Travel before my next extreme, just so I can beat Dark Odyssey later one day as if I'm some kind of changed player. But here's the thing, I enjoy creating far more than I do playing the same level over and over to hope I get good at it. So that desire may drastically increase the amount of time before I start working on another extreme like Cataclysm, or maybe even Red World. Regardless, I certainly can't wait to share any more experiences of what else I accomplish as time moves toward the inevitable day I click yes in the quit game pop-up one final time.